of spoilers. I am Adam. It is 11:47 on Saturday the 15th. I am on my way to Hampton International Film Festival. So if you hear my GPS go off, that will explain that, because I'm getting off at exit 70 to go down to 27 and take that the rest of the way to the Hamptons, where I gotta park in this little auxiliary lot. I mean, technically I could probably park in the closure lot, because the screening series I'm going to is more for the Smithtown Chronicle than it is for this, because it's a Long Island film series. I'm going to be going to that. So, Halloween Kills. What's a nice way to put this? The movie is shit. I'm sorry, but I started watching the movie, and I had my misgivings last year about Halloween Kills, which I may have just called as Halloween Kills, because Halloween Ends. Last year when I saw this movie, I was like, look, it's a cool idea, and I was never one who was like, the idea of the evil, the ancient evil that is Michael Myers, being what it is in the later movies, especially the one with Paul Rudd, where it's like there's this Nordic rune that establishes that he is immortal and he's an ancient embodiment of evil, and it's like, alright, whatever, that's a little weird, but then they bring him back with, what's it called? They bring him back with, he comes back in the next movie, and now here we are, Michael Myers is now back, and again, same thing, rune of evil, and it's like, alright, cool, I guess. And this movie is billed as, this is going to be the final confrontation between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, which is, alright, cool, love it. But again, they do that stupid thing where they keep fucking doing the whole, showing footage from the wrong movie thing, where they definitely show footage from Halloween 2, which is not canon to this movie. And again, I think that's the other thing too, is that the emotional draw of this confrontation requires you to know that these other confrontations happened between Halloween 2, H2O, and all of that, and all of that is required for this, and that lends to that, but none of it is canon except for the original Halloween, so whatever. Because Halloween exists in this ridiculous multiverse, for some reason, where there's the timeline of Halloween to Halloween 2, there's the reboot timeline, there's Halloween to Halloween 2018, which circumvents everything, and there's Halloween 3, which is totally different, and then there's Halloween 4, 5, and 6, and I think Resurrection is included in that. But yeah, I guess I don't think that this is necessarily the way it was. So either way, this is billed as the final fight between them. The problem is, I really like the idea of, like, there is this evil that cannot be killed, and the evil cannot be killed and can only be passed on. And I said it last year, the movie would have been better if it ended with Michael Myers dying at the hands of, I forgot her character's name, but Judy Greer's character, and Judy Greer putting the mask on. Because then it becomes a fight to save the soul of that character by Laurie, save her daughter from
in 2 miles, take exit 70 for County Road 111 toward Manorville, Eastport.
Cool. From being Michael Myers. And I think that that's kind of an interesting way to do that, I think. And looking at it that way, I feel like taking this the direction they did, where it's like we're introduced to this new character, entirely new character, who is going to be the next Michael Myers, but not really. Like, it is an interesting kind of, and the thing is too, it's like, this kid is not Michael Myers, and he doesn't have the same thing that made Michael Myers scary, and I think that's a big part of it, was Michael Myers was scary in the first Halloween, and in subsequent movies, to a lesser extent, but still there, is he doesn't talk. He's just this stoic serial killer who will just walk and pursue and just silently stalk his prey. And that was what made him scary. And this new kid is not that. And I think that had you done it where we were already introduced to the character, we knew who the character was, when this passes to this new character, it just doesn't have the same impact.
In half a mile, take exit 70 for County Road 111 toward Manorville, Eastport.
I apologize, that's my GPS, or Google Maps, as it were. So, I think that the other problem that I really have with the movie is, alright, so I paused it while I was getting off the highway and onto the next stretch of this, because I didn't want to annoy the crap out of anyone with the GPS noise. So I'll try to do that again as I get closer to the next junction, which I'm still a few miles away from. So, looking at what she does, and what this guy does, it's like, the thing that dubs him evil. And I feel like not enough of this is done over the course of the last two movies to make Haddonfield really the enemy, and it's a really weird choice, too, considering where this series started and what this was originally. Like, it doesn't feel like Michael Myers is a product of Haddonfield in a substantial way. It doesn't feel like that is something that is going to be his, like, he is not there as a result of Haddonfield doing what they did. He is Michael Myers, and he is separate from everything else happening around him, and he's just an embodiment of evil. And the idea of this kid who we're introduced to in the cold open, where he's babysitting someone on Halloween, and there's an accident, and he kills the kid. And somehow, and that's the thing that I'm like, that's where my suspension of disbelief kind of goes out the window, but there is no fucking way that this guy would be able to get off. Like, how good is this guy's lawyer that he's getting off of this murder charge, or involuntary manslaughter charge, that a year later he's back in work? Like, what the fuck? Anyway, he is but, like, this accidentally happens, and the town turns on him and acts like he is, he's some kind of, like, pedophile or some kind of child killer, which he did kill a child, but it wasn't on purpose. But the entire town turns on him. He's working at a junkyard, and, it is, like, it's trying to be, like, the cycle of recidivism. Like, I feel like that's what they're trying to do, while also pinning blame on the town, but it's not doing it well. So what happens when you try to do something like that, where you're attempting to provide meaning behind something, and then you fail, it just makes it feel kind of weird, which is where this movie kind of lands. On top of that, I don't think necessarily that it's a good choice to then have, like, and I've talked about this before. I don't like it when we're doing this thing, we're building something up, and the fact that this has happened more than once is kind of ridiculous. You would have thought that Hollywood would have learned after the first time that this is not a good idea. But when you build something up to be the end of an arc, sending people on these innocuous fucking missions to do absolutely nothing, that have nothing to do with the story at hand, which in this case is the fight between Laurie and Michael, which that fight is very short at the end of the movie. And it's very anticlimactic. Like, it is not well executed or well paced, this movie at all. And by the time you get to the third act, you're like, alright, so Laurie kills Michael, and then they drag Michael through the streets, and then they throw him into a trash compactor so he'll never come back again. But it's like, that's all, like, the last 10 minutes of the movie. Last 15 to 20 minutes of the movie is just handling that, and it's like, alright, well, that was anticlimactic. Like, after the last movie goes out of its way to be like, you can't kill this. Like, it should have been, if this is going to be the case, that should have been how the last movie ended, and then the next movie is going to be, it passed to someone else and then dealing with that. If that's the case, if that's what you're going with. Because that's kind of what this is, where it's like, it's not even like I'm reading subtext into it. It's like, it's kind of overtly text that, like, this kid is meant to be the next Michael Myers, but he goes down like a bitch. Like, he doesn't actually confront anyone in a way that he has to stop. And it's like, and he doesn't have the correct mannerisms to make him scary for the audience. just don't think it, and so much of the movie is predicated on that. It's just not well done, and I feel like there were better ways to end this. All right, so we got some time because it's 29 miles, but and the thing is too, it's like there's an idea that's kind of flirted with a little bit in the movie, where they could have gone a direction like, and this is now the second time in within a year, because last year was Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and there's this kind of idea that's kind of flirted with a little bit, that they could do like natural born killers kind of thing, but instead of doing where natural born killers is that, and then there's like kind of the beginnings of it in what was the other movie called? In Venom, there's the little bit of it with Woody Harrelson and Naomi Campbell, Carnage, Cassidy and Shriek. Like it's kind of flirted with. It's kind of like, okay, could be an interesting idea, and it's just kind of like, all right, awesome, but like you don't do it nearly enough, so who cares? And when we get to in this movie, the third act being, like the entire movie is about these two characters who are on opposite ends of the murder spectrum, I guess we'll call it. Like, she is someone who was nearly the victim of murder. Her mother was murdered by the same guy, and now she's got to deal with that on a daily basis, and everyone treats her like a victim. And then there is Corey, who is, he did kill someone. It was an accident. Like, it was not intentional, but he did kill someone. And he gets treated poorly because of that. So you get these two opposite ends of that meeting each other. And, there's this exploration. The two of them are going to leave and go off and do their own thing. And it's like, all right, that's a good idea on its own. Like, there are so many things that are just like half-done good ideas that you're like, well, what the fuck? Why did they bother with what this movie was, the way they did it? Where it's like there are so many other things that are obviously left on the cutting room floor that we're just like, nah, we're not going to do that. Fuck it. I don't know. I just feel like there are so many things that could have been better executed over the entire runtime of this movie that I find myself just like, why was this done the way it was? Because the thing is, too, it's not like the movie was, rushed out. Like, they shot it back to back, so it's not like they could have really had time to course correct. But the problem was, I don't get the sense that from the past movies, and we're going to look at the canon past movies, I don't get the sense that it is necessarily the town's fault. But this movie does try to pin a lot of the problems on the town, in a weird way. And like the introduction of characters no one cares about, and it's like, that's the thing, is you don't have enough time to care about Corey. And they try to shorthand us into caring about him, but with a runtime of an hour and 50 minutes, it's like, well, why is that? It's so dumb. There are so many things in this movie that are just like so dumb and so poorly executed that you're like, well, why the fuck did they do this? Like, the fact that if I'm watching a movie, I'm like, well, why did you do this? Why was this the route you went? Especially when you're doing a end of an arc. It's like, it'd be like if you were doing a Star Wars movie and you sent the main characters on a fucking fetch quest for a holocron before sending them to Exegol for the entire third act of the movie. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Why would you do that? That's totally unnecessary. Totally unneeded. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll wrap up there for today, only because I don't really have too much more to say about it. I mean, I don't think it's a great movie. It's not worth the time to watch. It's not worth going to a theater to see. It's certainly not worth watching on Peacock. Because it's not like, anything happens that you're like, oh, this is cool at least. Like, this is at least a cool thing to watch. Or it's like, oh, they're doing something interesting within the framework of a slasher. And it's like, well, they're not doing either of those. So who really cares? Why am I watching this? And the movie doesn't give a good reason why it should be watched. But on that note, we will wrap up there for today. Our next episode will definitely be tomorrow. I will be seeing She Said, the Harley Quinn, the Harvey Weinstein movie about the New York Times reporting that broke the Harvey Weinstein story. And then I thought there was one other thing I might do, depending on how much content there is, because it's a very short screening I'm headed all the way out there for. I may do one for Hamptons, but for the Long Island Voices. But we'll see. That will be, debatable, depending on what this is. So, until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.